Hi, this is Kelly Brown, and today we're going to go over VLOOKUP. This is a function in Excel that is very versatile and can be used in a lot of different situations. I've already created a video using VLOOKUP to find the closest match. This video is using VLOOKUP to find an exact match. By that I mean I have a table of data on the left that has a student ID, a last name, first name, a grade, reading score, math score, and language arts score. On the right, there's another table that only has the student ID populated, but it also has a place for a first name, a last name, and a reading score. The idea is based on the student ID, which is common to both sets of data or tables. This one has a student ID and this one has a student ID. We want to return data from this table based on the student ID and place it in this table. So the VLOOKUP is going to see that this student ID is 1425. 1425. It's going to look at this table to find 1425, and then it's going to look for the first name and place the first name here. Then it's going to do the same thing for 1425, look at 1425, look for the corresponding last name and place that last name over here. And then finally, we're going to do the same thing, look for 1425 over here, look for the reading score over here, and place that and return that data to be placed in the reading score column to the data on the right. So that's what the VLOOKUP function does. And again, very important that the records are based on the common field between the two is data that is unique to every record. Student ID is unique to every student. Only one student has a particular student ID. But many students might have the last name Franklin or Brown or Smith or Williams. So last names are not recommended to use for VLOOKUP because they're not unique to that student's record. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to place my cursor over here in the column that says first name. And one thing I forgot to mention, I have this table to the left and then this table to the right. I've done this for training purposes so you can see what I'm doing on the screen. But this table could be in another worksheet or another workbook. They do not have to be in the same location. I could have another worksheet that is looking for just a reading score, and I could do the VLOOKUP between two worksheets, and I could bring in just one piece of data. I chose to demonstrate it doing it 3 times just so you could see it being done 3 times, and hopefully that will help you understand how to use it better. Okay, but you don't have to retrieve 3 pieces of data. You don't have to retrieve 5 pieces of data. You could just retrieve 1 piece of data, whatever works for your situation. Okay, again, we're going to start. I'm going to place my cursor under first name, and I'm going to begin using the VLOOKUP function. To do that, I'm going to go to the ribbon. I'm going to go to the Formulas tab in the ribbon and click on the Formulas tab. I'm going to look for the Lookup and Reference category. It's a VLOOKUP function, so I'm looking under Lookup and Reference. I'm going to click on Lookup and Reference. Then I'm going to go to the very last choice that says VLOOKUP. I'm going to click on VLOOKUP and an argument box appears. I'm going to enter the data that is required for this argument box, and then I should be successful in my VLOOKUP function. So first thing it's asking for is a lookup value. If I'm not sure what that means, I could look down here, and it says lookup value is the value to be found in the first column of the table and can be a value, a reference, or a text string. Okay, so here is my lookup value. I'm looking up the student ID, and based on that, I'm going to see what value is returned. So I click in the cell that has that student ID. The cell reference appears here, and the value of that cell reference appears to the right. So I'm all good. The next thing it's asked for is the table array. I'm going to click in the box next to table array. If I'm not sure what that means, I can look down here. Table array is a table of text, numbers, or logical values in which data is retrieved. Table array can be a reference to a range or a range name. Now what's important here is, is a table of text and so on in which the data is retrieved. So the data is going to be retrieved from this table. So this is the table array that I need. and I need to select the data that I want retrieved and placed in this table. So I need the student ID or else I don't know what data to look for. So I need to select that one. I need last name, first name, and I need the reading score. That's data that I want retrieved and placed in the purple table. So I'll select that and select all the data. And now I have a cell reference for that table array. This is saying it's cell A2 through cell E12. But I need to make sure that the cell references are absolute cell references. By them being absolute cell references, it's saying that it will only look at these two cells. It will not move down or to the right or anywhere else. It's locked in to these cell locations, and these are the only cells it'll look at to determine the data that needs to be retrieved. To make an absolute cell reference, I'm going to select the first cell reference there, cell A2, and then I'm going to click the function 4 or F4 key from my keyboard. When I do that, the cell reference changes a little bit. Now it's $A, $2. All that means is that it's an absolute cell reference now. It's a set and defined location. I'm going to do the same thing to the ending cell reference, cell E12. I'm going to click to select it. Then I'm going to click the function 4 or F4 key. It also will change, and it looks like $E, $12. So it again means that it will only look at this location to find the data that needs to be retrieved for the VLOOKUP. The next piece of data it's looking for is column index number. This is based on the table array, and it says here is the column number in table array from which the matching value should be returned. The first column of values in the table is column 1. Okay, so right here we're looking for the first name. So we're going to the table array, as it says here, the column number in the table array, to determine what column number is the first name that we want to appear here. It's telling us the first column is column 1, then this last name is column 2, but what we want is the first name, which is column 3. So we're going to click or in the table array, the column index number box, and we're going to just type in number 3 because that is the column that we want the data retrieved from. Now we're going to click in the cell next to range lookup, and it's telling us is a logical value. To find the closest match in the first column in ascending order, we click true. Well, we don't want the closest match. To find an exact match, we want to enter false. Well, we want an exact match. We want to know exactly what is in column 3 of this table array for the record of 1425. So we're going to type in false. Just type in the word false. So we see our values here, and we see the answer that they gave us was Cindy. We're going to click OK. And now if I look at this table under 1425 and look at first name, I see Cindy. And I see Cindy. So it brought over the right piece of data. Now if I click in the cell that has the formula that we know worked, we place our cursor in the bottom right corner of that cell, wait for it to change to a black plus symbol, and double click with our left mouse button. And now we see some other names populate, and we can test it again. If we go to record 1460 over here, we go to 1460 and go to first name, it's Lisa, and here's Lisa. If we go to record 1325 over here and go to first name, we see Emma, and here we see Emma. So everything looks like it, the data that was retrieved was correct. So now I want to do the same thing for last name. Since I've already done it for the first name, I really don't have to redo the whole formula. I can copy and paste the formula. To do that, I click in a cell that has the formula that I know worked. In this case, I'm going to show you how to copy a formula, and I'm also going to show you how to cut a formula. In this case, I'm going to copy. So I click in the cell that has the formula that I want. I'm going to right click and then click copy. Then I'm going to go into the next column where I want the last name. I know I'm going to have to change the formula a little bit to get the last name, but the bulk of the formula could be done already for me. I'm going to right click in that cell, and then you see there's different paste options. I need to make sure I click on this one that has FX, and when I place my cursor over it, it tells me formulas. I'm going to click on that, and right away I get an NA, but that's okay because I know I need to change a few things. To get to where I can make those changes, I'm going to go to the formula bar and click on that FX next to the formula bar. When I click on that FX, the argument box appears, and this is where I can make my change. The problem is, because I moved over one column, because the formula was here, and I copied and pasted it, and I moved over to the right, all the data that is there has also moved over to the right. So it's not looking at cell J2 for the student ID. It's now looking at column K2 because it went over to the right one. Well, we know it needs to look at column J2, so I'm just going to go in the cell and change it to J2. So now it's looking at the student ID, which is great. Because we use those absolute values in the table array, we're good. So that one is going to stay in its correct location. The column index number we need to change because the column index number was looking at the first name, and that was 1, 2, 3. Now we're looking for a last name, and that's column 1, 2. So we're going to change the 3 to a 2. False is still correct because we want an exact match, and we click OK. And now we get Cindy Howard. So that was 1425, last name Howard. I'm going to just do the same thing, double click down, and I have Cindy Howard and Lisa Williams and Emma Franklin, and they're all together. So rather than having to do the VLOOKUP function all over again, I just had to change the the cell reference for the student ID and the column ID of the table array, and then we're all good. So that was using a copy and paste. Now let's do a cut and paste. So I'm going to click in the cell that I know has a function that works, the formula that works. And I'm going to right click over it. Instead of copy, I'm going to hit cut. Now when I hit cut, I'm going to go over to where I want the reading score, right click again, and I only have one function option, and that's this one, and I'm going to use it, and you're going to see that this one is now deleted. Okay, I can quickly get this one back by clicking in this cell underneath it that has the formula, and I was always dragging down, but I can also drag up. If I just drag up here, the formula will copy up as well as down. Now here it gave me the same formula that was in this cell, and I need to change it a little bit over here. So again, I click in the cell that has that formula, I click in FX, and I have my argument box, and I have to make some changes. So the J2 copied fine for the student ID, so that's good. The table array is fine. It's the column index number that we have to change, because now we're looking for the reading score. So to find which column index number for the reading score, we count from the first one as column 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. The column index is column 5 of the table array. So we need to change that to 5 and click OK. And let's see. Oh, the lookup value, I must have changed what I had there. J2, 5, there we go. So now we have 722. I'm going to bring that down. So now if I look for 1425 here, and I look over to see what her reading score was, excuse me, I'd see it's 722. And if I look at record 1460 and look at her reading score, it's 832. And if I look at 1325 and look for her reading score, it's 785. So again, all those values for reading score were retrieved correctly from this table array and brought into this table array. And that's one way to use VLOOKUP to bring in an exact match.